Welcome to OAC Health Talks. I'm Joe Naglowski, OAC's President and CEO, and we are excited for you to join us for this educational video series that dives deeper into specific health topics that we know are important to you and the OAC community. Today's OAC Health Talk tackles another important topic, how to cope with seasonal stress and depression, featuring clinical health psychologist Robyn Pashby. With fall in full bloom and winter right around the corner, the seasons are changing rapidly, and sometimes that can affect your mental state. Managing stress and depression during the changing seasons can be difficult and sometimes feel impossible. In today's Health Talk, Dr. Pashby will provide you with some helpful tips on how you can cope with seasonal stress and depression. And with that, take it away, Dr. Pashby.
I am so happy to be here today sharing this discussion about seasonal affective disorder, sometimes known as SAD. No doubt somewhere along the way you've heard about SAD or the winter blues. Both the winter blues and SAD can affect your eating and your weight and just generally how you feel in your day-to-day life. So now is the perfect time to start preparing for winter and all that comes with it. Shorter days, less light, more cold and wet weather for many of us. This talk is meant to empower you and to help you realize that you don't just have to live with it until spring. Of course, we can't control the weather, but there are some things you can do to help yourself navigate these tricky seasonal mood patterns. So, as a caveat, during my talk, I am going to review the diagnostic criteria for seasonal affective disorder, but I do recommend that you speak to your own healthcare provider or mental health provider rather than rely on self-diagnosis. Depression in any form is a serious but treatable condition, and it needs to be handled thoughtfully. Okay. So here we go. As you know, mood and weight are interrelated. There seems to be a bidirectional relationship between the two. In other words, as depression tends to worsen, weight often goes up. And as weight tends to go up, often that can lead our mood to decline. So if you have noticed this relationship in your own experience, then paying attention to changes in mood that you may experience as the weather or the amount of daylight changes, then this matters a whole lot. Why? Well, because the seasonal shift occurs every year, like it or not. And unlike so many of the stressors and triggers for weight gain that we experience in our daily lives, these seasonal changes are reliable and predictable and therefore meaningful, but they can have a significant impact on your health and weight as the years pass by. So first, we're going to break down seasonal affective disorder and take a look at what SAD really is. It's a subtype of depression, and it's thought to be related mostly to a change in light, which in turn creates a change in your body's circadian rhythm, as well as the production of a hormone called melatonin. Now, some people who do not meet full diagnostic criteria for depression, but who experience mild to moderate symptoms of this type of mood change during fall and winter are considered to have a milder form of the disorder known as the winter blues. So let's break this down. SAD is thought to be related mostly to a change in light, which in turn creates a change in your body's circadian rhythm, as well as the production of the hormone melatonin. But what exactly is circadian rhythm? Well, simply put, circadian rhythm is a variation in physiology and behavior that corresponds approximately to a 24-hour cycle. And it is regulated by internal biological clocks that are centrally located in a part of our hypothalamus called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, as well as more peripherally in organs such as our liver, gut, pancreas, as well as fat and muscle mass. And what exactly is melatonin? Well, besides being a supplement that you can find on many grocery store shelves, melatonin is actually a naturally produced sleep-related hormone. And your body makes more melatonin when it's dark. So when the days are shorter and darker, more melatonin is made, and your circadian rhythm combined can help get you off track. So what are the actual symptoms of SAD or seasonal affective disorder? Well, seasonal affective disorder is a regular seasonal pattern of major depression, major depressive episodes that occur mostly during the fall and winter. and often are combined with periods of full improvement during the spring and summer months. The symptoms of SAD are exactly like the symptoms of non-seasonal depression, and they may include feeling depressed most days or nearly every day, losing interest in activities that you once enjoyed, having low energy, having difficulty sleeping or oversleeping, experiencing changes in your appetite, particularly increased carbohydrate cravings for many, feeling sluggish or agitated, withdrawing from social connections, having difficulty concentrating, feeling hopeless, worthless, or guilty, having a decrease in your sex drive or libido, and often experiencing weight gain. Now, some people with major depression or seasonal depression also experience frequent thoughts of death or suicide. It is really important that you know that if you are having thoughts of death or of suicide or self-harm, that there are many resources available. For example, 988 is now an alternative to 911 to call if you need support. You can also visit a number of alternative and really excellent resources depending on where you live, which might include things like the Black Line, the Kiva Center, the Peer Support Space, and many more. This is important because seasonal variations in mood and behavior do have a significant association with both suicidality and feelings of worthlessness in some large-scale studies. So if you are having some of those thoughts, please reach out for help. Now, the experiences of this cluster of symptoms occurring mostly during the fall and winter is common enough that it's become an established clinical diagnosis, and it can greatly benefit from evidence-based treatments, which we will discuss in a moment. And here's another interesting note about seasonal affective disorder and relationship to eating. So, circadian rhythm disruption has been documented in several eating disorders as well as disordered eating patterns. Perhaps the most strong association is found with circadian disruption and night eating syndrome, which occurs when people tend to consume most of their calories at night and may awaken from sleep to eat. Binge eating episodes are most likely to occur at night, and some evidence suggests that the onset of binge eating disorder occurs before the co-occurring sleep dysregulation. Relatedly, bright light therapy, which we will talk about in a few moments as it relates to SAD, has actually been shown to decrease binge eating episodes related to bulimia nervosa as well as binge eating disorder. And importantly, this outcome seems to hold with or without the mood improvements that often co-occur with the light therapy. So researchers are actually pretty new in studying this area, and for example, at the University of Cincinnati, there are trials underway right now to learn more about how we can use light therapy for the treatment of binge eating. So now we can move on to helping you understand what are some of the ways that you can manage the effects of lower light and colder weather on your mood. Okay, my favorite way to remember this is to use these 4 tips that can be put in the order to spell out the word LAST, L-A-S-T. So that's a little handy tip. Let's start with L. First, get more light. Now, this may seem obvious since SAD is related to a decrease in light. Well, natural sunlight is obviously best because in addition to helping with that circadian rhythm, it also gives you a boost of vitamin D and often comes with lots of fresh air, which are natural mood enhancers. However, for those that cannot get a natural light or simply if natural light is unavailable, then the use of light therapy through light boxes can help. So light therapy mimics natural outdoor light that appears to cause a change in brain chemicals linked to mood. Bright light therapy, particularly in the early morning, also decreases melatonin production. So light therapy is one of the first-line treatments for seasonal affective disorder, and it generally starts working within a few days or a few weeks. While the side effects are mild, including possibility for headaches and eye strain and sometimes feeling agitated, because the dose of the light you need depends on you, we do encourage that you talk to your doctor or your mental health care provider before using light therapy. But I can give you some tips on what types of things to look for. So light therapy should include an exposure to at least 10,000 lux of light and should emit as little UV rays as possible. So lux is simply just a measurement, a unit of light intensity that is measured at a specific distance from a source of light. So for example, common lux ranges encountered in our daily lives are between 1 and 500 lux usually in residential indoor lighting. 5 to 700 lux are common in well-lit office buildings. 10,000 lux is the equivalent to sunrise on a clear spring day. And 100,000 lux might be noon sun on a summer day. That can give you a range so that you understand what you're talking about. Now, typical recommendations for use of a light box include exposure of light in your eyes or to yourself within the first 2 hours of waking up every day. Typically, we encourage people to stay in front of a light box from anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes, again, depending on you and what you and your provider have discussed, and to sit at a distance that is usually between 16 and 24 inches from the source of light. Now, importantly, you sit with your eyes open, but you don't look directly at the light. So, for example, if you're reading the morning newspaper, you could have the light box on right in front of you in that 16 to 24 inch range and carry on about your business as usual. Now, these light boxes are designed to be safe and effective, of course, but the FDA doesn't regulate them. So we encourage you to work with your healthcare provider again. And please note, the tanning bed or the tanning salon is not an appropriate substitution. The cost-benefit analysis of the UV rays that you get in that type of circumstance just simply aren't worth the benefits. Okay, so that's L, light. What about A? Well, not surprisingly, A stands for activity. So we encourage you to get outside as much as you can, even if it means you have to bundle up for a hike or a walk. But you could also try outdoor activities, maybe ice skating or snowshoeing, if you live in a place that gets snow, or skiing. But you could also try some indoor activities like roller skating or indoor trampoline parks, rock climbing, maybe indoor golf or bowling. Any way you move your body is going to help your mood. But here's an important tip. Try thinking of your activity as a mental health boost, not anything related to weight. While we know that weight maintenance after loss is better maintained for those who engage in regular exercise, I tell all of my clients to think about exercise as a first-line treatment for your mental health and stress management, because really, those reasons are the most compelling reasons that can get you moving. First, it disconnects exercise from your eating behavior. You might remember or have experienced that thought that tells you, oh, why bother exercising? I overate today. The more we disconnect eating and exercise, the more likely we are to engage in exercise that feels good to us, get that immediate mood boost reward, and moving in a way that feels good and safe to you, which almost always results in a mood boost. So we have light, we have activity. Next up, get good sleep. Now, I know it's easier said than done, but sleep is foundational for your health, both mental and physical. Here are some ways that you can improve your sleep. Number 1, create a bedtime routine for yourself. We all know that pets, children, and even grown-ups, you may not know that, benefit from having a nighttime routine. Well, the same is true for you. We encourage you not to use electronics like a computer or a phone or a tablet within a couple hours before bed. And if you must, for some reason, then at least adjust the settings so that the light that is emitted from it is less bright. Remember going back to that discussion about why the light reduces melatonin? In the evening, we actually want melatonin production to help us sleep. So having bright light in our eyes can actually impact that. You could also set a timer if you must use a device before bed to remind you when you've spent a designated amount of time on that device. That might help you move into a more conscious decision making around your usage rather than continuing on autopilot for hours and hours before bed. And then, of course, we encourage you to get morning light, whether that's natural light or artificial light. I know it seems counterintuitive, but actually bright light in the morning is going to help you manage your sleep later that night. So we also know that there's a meaningful relationship between weight and sleep, both hormonally and behaviorally. So working on your sleep hygiene is likely to help you in both of those domains. So for example, people who are underslept or who have poor quality sleep are less likely to feel the energy to cook a meal after work. They might be less likely to take that walk. Additionally, the experience of sleep dysregulation affects hormones that can contribute to feelings of hunger or fullness. So getting between 7 and 9 hours of high quality sleep a night is optimal for most people, although the exact amount does vary by individual. So we've covered light, activity, and sleep. These are all behaviors that we can work to adjust. But equally important is what's going on inside your head. So we will round that out with the T. T stands for talking, both how you talk to yourself and talking to other people. So let's start with self-talk. We're going to help you pay attention to the self-talk that's going on inside your head. Now, I like to think of it in layers. We all have an ongoing monologue running through our head that guides us throughout the day. Okay, gotta go here, have this meeting, have this to do. But just beneath that is a layer of self-talk that is greatly related to our mood. And sometimes those self-talk statements are negative. Now, in cognitive therapy, we call these cognitive distortions, but I like to call them unhelpful thinking styles because they are just that, often unhelpful. But particularly when we are working on managing mood, it is really important that you pay attention to how you speak to yourself. And importantly, this same self-talk work can help you in your weight management efforts too. So it really does matter in paying attention. The most common unhelpful thinking habits are all or none thinking, mind reading, negative filter, jumping to conclusions, catastrophizing, shoulds and musts, magnification, and overgeneralization. We will review two for the sake of time, jumping to conclusions and overgeneralizations. So, for example, let's say the calendar turns to September 1st, and the first thought you have is an automatic thought that sounds something like, oh no, next thing you know, it's going to be dark and I'm going to get depressed. Or, oh, this is terrible. I get depressed all the time in the fall and winter. Now, instead of going to that, oh no, the next thing that happens is, if you could recognize, oh wait, that's a jumping to conclusion, unhelpful thinking habit, it might allow you the space to rework that thought a little. And maybe instead it sounds something like this. The changing seasons is sometimes a trigger for my mood to decline. But this year, I'm going to intervene early and work hard on managing my mood differently because things can always change. Now, overgeneralization, these thoughts often contain words like always and never. In our case, it might sound something like, I'm never going to be happy again, or I never feel good during the fall and winter. Now, again, you don't have to overcorrect that thought and bring it to the point of being unrealistic. We aren't aiming for puppies and rainbows all the time. That type of toxic positivity isn't real and isn't helpful. However, a more balanced approach to how you navigate your self-talk might sound something like, I'm feeling really down right now, and it's easy to think I'll never feel happy again. However, I've been through these patterns of mood ups and downs before, and I know that it's time limited, even if I feel really dark right now. These are the same types of challenging self-talk statements that we work with in helping people learn behavior modification and other strategies for managing weight. So the time you put into managing your mood over the seasons can help you, like I said, in more than one domain. Self-talk, don't forget, is a major contributor to how you feel and the emotions you experience. So by paying attention to your self-talk and working hard to reframe and challenging your thinking styles, you can help buffer the mood effect that may come with these changing temperatures. Now, last point, remember, you can always talk to a professional. If you are struggling or if you need help working through reframing some of those unhelpful thinking patterns that we just discussed a moment ago. Now, you'll recall that I don't recommend self-diagnosis and self-treatment of SAD because all depression is serious and needs to be taken seriously. But if you struggle with the changing seasons and experience some of the symptoms mentioned above, and have difficulty functioning, say at school, at work, or in your family unit, or if you find yourself withdrawing from interacting with friends, then you should definitely talk to your doctor or find a psychologist or other mental health professional to help you. You can start by accessing the OAC provider directory, where we have a list of therapists who might be near you who also understand this important intersection between mental health and obesity. Cognitive behavioral therapy is an evidence-based treatment for depression and seasonal depression, SAD, so finding a provider that specializes in CBT would be a great start. CBT therapists work in a two-pronged approach, I would say. First, the behavioral, the doing part, and that might include things like scheduling and doing pleasant activities, engaging in something every single day of the winter. And over time, these proactive behaviors tend to build up and fight that tendency to hibernate that can come along with SAD. But CBT also includes a cognitive component, the thinking component, and that helps you learn to identify and challenge those negative thoughts that might be occurring to help you manage your SAD symptoms. In CBT work, what you will learn is to regularly apply these skills, starting very early in the fall, perhaps way before you have any symptoms. And that can help you manage your mood throughout the winter, as well as prevent lapses into those old thinking patterns. In other words, CBT gives you a toolbox that can help you manage your mood seasonally differently. So in review, LAST, L-A-S-T, light, activity, sleep, and self-talk, or talking to a professional, are the things that you can do to help yourself. SAD, seasonal affective disorder, is a real condition, and it can affect your mood and your relationships, as well as your health and your weight. While it may be frustrating because the seasonal shifts come every year, it's also an opportunity to continue to practice these tools over and over again. Think how many times you get to practice. Again, my name is Dr. Robyn Pashby, and I so appreciate your attention today. I hope you learned a thing or two about seasonal affective disorder, and as always, thank you for your support of the OAC.
Thank you, Dr. Pashby, for providing us with such helpful information how we can all cope with seasonal stress and depression. The OAC has a variety of educational opportunities for you throughout the year, but one of the best places you can turn for quality, unbiased education is our resource library. Simply visit obesityaction.org/library and check out our brochures, articles, guides, videos, and more health talks. Also, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get notified of any future educational events and broadcasts. Thanks for joining us.